Hello, everybody, and welcome to Darth Choco Reviews. Today, we're going to be looking at why Rey is a Mary Sue and Luke Skywalker is not. All right, let's get into it. If you've followed me for a long time, you probably know that I make a lot of Star Wars content, but I primarily make it on TikTok. One of the common things that I see is people will come to my comments and talk about different videos that they've seen on YouTube and say I should check them out. So that's what I'm doing. There's a lot of Star Wars video essays out there. Some of them are great, some of them not so much. My goal here is to provide a balanced, unbiased, and non toxic view of these. And so hopefully we can find out which of these videos are great to watch and which ones should be avoided. So let's get into it. All right, so he starts out by defining exactly what a Mary Sue is. It actually gives me some cause for concern right off the bat here, right? Because this is the actual definition, right? It's a character who is too perfect or too powerful or is just plain too likable. That's the actual definition. In this video, he goes on to give his own definition. Why? Because there are other characters that fit this definition that he likes or enjoys. That's problematic. He starts off by using the example of Superman, saying that because Superman falls into those categories, he would be a Mary Sue, but since Superman is beloved, then he can't be. This is incorrect. Superman does follow under the category of Mary Sue, and in all honesty, Batman is the biggest Mary Sue of all time. Whether or not you like the character personally does not weigh in. That's not a factor at all. It's strange that he's using it as one. But let's see where he goes with it. Okay, now we get to his definition of a Mary Sue, right? It's a character to which the plot and the universe bend. Um, this is not the definition of the word. This is what a Deus Ex is. All right, just did a quick Google search on Deus Ex Machina. It's an unexpected power or event saving a seemingly hopeless situation, especially as a contrived plot device in a play or novel. So personally, I have to hugely disagree with his definition of it because that's literally what the Force is. It's Deus Ex Machina. Another great word to look up is MacGuffin, right? It is an object or device in a movie or book that serves merely as a trigger for the plot. The Force also exists in this position as well, and I think it contradicts his definition. But we're still at the very beginning. Let's see where we go. Okay, cool. Now we're getting down to the meat and potatoes of it. Brings out that if someone with no training, skill, or combat experience defeats a veteran soldier, then that's probably what's considered a Mary Sue moment. Totally agree. Absolutely. Okay, this is looking a lot better, right? It brings up if a farm boy defeats veteran, then that could be a Mary Sue moment. If a genius villain turns so stupid that the newbie agent can win, would also be a Mary Sue moment. And if a rookie pilot defeats an elite squad, and it's unexplained, then that could also be a Mary Sue moment. Again, I fully agree. I'm slightly confused as to where we're going with this because all of these apply to Luke. So we shall see. And Anakin. Okay, I love this, right? If the only explanation for power is they're just awesome, then they might be a Mary Sue. Agree, 1000%. Let's go. All right, so he just brought up the hero's journey, which obviously Luke Skywalker does follow. It's used in many stories. It's not used in every story, and hopefully him bringing it up doesn't mean that he's hinging his argument off of strict adherence to the hero's journey. But we'll see. Now we're hitting our first kind of double standard moment here. We fully accept that Luke has knowledge on droids, how to drive, and weaponry, and they attribute that to his time being a farm boy. He even says that we don't have to see all these things. We can make logical assumptions as to why they would know these things. But for some reason, the same is not afforded to Rey. All right, so we've veered off the topic of her learning those skills and gone into her home and saying that they haven't set up her character because although she has a doll and a wilting flower, we don't see her interact. But if she lives alone, everything that she has in her place is going to be representative of her. It's not like it could belong to someone else. I know. I just think it's an odd nitpick, but we'll see. Also, it's a weird digression off of his argument. Yeah, how does Rey know how to survive on this desert planet? Is it because she's just awesome? Well, no. In the movie, we see her as a little girl being left in the care of Unkar Plutt, which is kind of messed up. But can't we naturally assume that the person caring for her when she was younger, who runs this whole junk outpost, helped her to attain these skills? I don't understand why we're ignoring that for Rey, but we are able to accept it for Luke. It's kind of strange to me. Also, what about Anakin? I mean, yes, he had his mom taking care of him. Did he learn his mechanical skills from his mom? Did he learn how to pod race from her? I don't know. It's weird. It doesn't seem like we're on even footing for all these characters already. We also have another weird digression of the character motivations. He seems to think it's strange that they don't have identical motivations for some reason, but I'm not sure. But the movie itself makes her motivations for leaving the planet very clear. She was being shot at by stormtroopers. That's why she ran, so she didn't die. She never wanted to leave the planet and wanted to return. Why? Because her goal was different than Luke's. Her goal was for family. She wanted to feel family, to feel welcome, and was trying to get back there for them. It's a different journey. It's strange. Okay, so we're still doing this. Okay, so in the video, he points to Rey helping out BB-8 as her catalyst, and is trying to point out that it's not showing that she's good of heart, but it is. I mean, his argument is the fact that she still left BB-8 in the desert, meaning that she just didn't care. But that's not true. It's because that she views the droid as like a equal as a sentient being. She talks to it like a person. Even after she frees him, she fixes his antenna. She just doesn't want to take him on as a responsibility, which is okay. I don't understand how that doesn't display anything. Okay, so he points to Wally as an example of him showing kindness to a cockroach as some sort of character development, which is very true, but ignores Rey fixing BB-8's antenna, talking to him like a human, telling him exactly where to go and what places to avoid, and doesn't count those. But I think this frame kind of probably points to the issue here. He claims that they were so focused on showing her as a strong, independent woman. That's not what they did, though. Now, a lot of the Me Too movement and stuff like that was going on during this period of time. And I think a lot of people may have just only picked up on items that support that, because that's what you're looking for. But it actually did a lot more than that. This is not accurate at all. In this, he says, raises eyes waiting for her parents because, and acts like we don't have information on why she might want to wait for her parents. I'm sorry, I thought we were able to make simple assumptions. Like, they're her parents. She's waiting for them to come back because they left her. She's having abandonment issues. I don't get it. Another weird thing that we just completely glossed over is the scene where she's offered as many portions as she wants in exchange for BB-8, but she didn't want to turn in the droid because she considers it like a person. It would be a betrayal. So that shows her loyalty, but what she was being offered is even more important, right? You saw how many portions of food she was offered. She was given the means to stay and wait for her parents for much longer and chose to turn it down. I mean, how does that not show the same development we're talking about? So he kind of talks about like it's a sudden character switch of Rey really being kind to BB-8 and that being the catalyst for the adventure. But was it? I don't. She saw a droid being accosted by someone that she knew who was just going to break him down, and she doesn't view droids as pets, right? I mean, we've already established that, how she speaks to him like a human. She goes to leave, then notices his antenna. She goes back, fixes it, tells him where to go and how to avoid it. Starts to go back because she doesn't want to leave. After some insisting, she decides to take him to the outpost. Upon taking him to the outpost, she's offered a crap ton of things just to abandon him, but doesn't want to give up that personage for him. It's actually pretty, like, it's not a sudden change. And as soon as she turns down that, yeah, there is a bond there. There's mutual respect, but I don't know. I don't know what the complaint is truly. Okay, so he also just pointed out that Rey defending herself from those two guys with her staff at the outpost should have had some sort of setup to show that she has that ability. Um, Bro, that is the setup. This is the very beginning of the movie. This is the setup to show you that she does know how to defend herself, and that's how she survived all these years. It's super weird. Alright, so this is the third time we've gotten to him saying, is it because she's just awesome? And again, there was adequate setup in all this. So no, it's not because she's just awesome. Okay, so this is a good point, right? Because Luke's piloting skill was mentioned several times in A New Hope, versus Rey, who mentioned that she was a pilot in passing just once. What's the big difference between these two? I think it's pretty obvious. Rey flew at the very beginning of the movie. Luke flew at the very end. So there was more opportunity for that to come up more frequently. Alright, we come to another she's just awesome moment. How did Rey know how to fix the Millennium Falcon better than Han did? This is literally referred to in dialogue. We know that she's familiar with the Millennium Falcon. As soon as Han gets on it, he says, hey, someone installed a compressor on this on the hyperdrive, and she says yes, Unkar Plutt did, but I think it's stupid because it'll put too much stress on the hyperdrive. They both finish each other's sentence at the same time, and it's kind of endearing, and that's one of the reasons that Han actually likes her, is that moment.
Some moof milker put a compressor on the ignition line.
Unkar Plutt did. I thought it was a mistake too. Puts too much stress on the hyperdrive.
Later, when flying through hyperspace and there being a lot of pressure on the hyperdrive, she bypasses that same compressor that she referred to earlier. It was fully set up. You can't say, is she just awesome, if you completely ignore the setup. It was there. What about Han? How come he didn't know about it? Because it was installed after he lost it. That's said directly in the dialogue. Come on, man. This is sad. Yay, we got to another she's just awesome moment. I'm starting to look forward to these now. It's kind of funny. How did Rey know exactly how to save Finn from the Rathtars that she accidentally released? This could be a Mary Sue moment, if only Disney didn't do one specific thing. They give us a sound cue, right? There's a specific sound cue that they always play whenever the Force is whispering to someone, telling them what to do, giving them an instinct, and they act on it. And they did that here. So yes, she did save him. If you want to qualify as a Mary Sue moment, I suppose you can, because by his definition, yes, that was the plot bending, but that was due to the Force, which was intentional at this point, not an accident. So I don't know. Again, I think it's a swing and a miss. What is that, like 0 for 6 now? Okay, now we might be getting to an actual point. He brings up that Luke was only able to destroy the Death Star because he used the Force, right? He used his instincts, and he only learned how to because he had a mentor. Let's see where we go. Well, that was short-lived. We already fell off a cliff here. He says that the first time that Rey encounters the Force was when she came in contact with Luke's lightsaber, or Anakin's lightsaber, if you want to call it so. That's not true. Not true at all. If you're a fan of Star Wars, you probably know that all Force-sensitive people use the Force all the time from birth. It's not something that just turns on. It's something that they've always used. If you look at Anakin, he was able to pod race only because he was using the Force in order to heighten his reflexes and to know what was coming before it physically got there. That's why he was the only human that was capable of pod racing at 9 years old. It's not like he had a pod racing mentor, right? This is another super weird digression. He asks, how come the lightsaber didn't call out to Han? Because Han has more of a connection to Luke. Han's not connected to the Force. And yeah, that's how the lightsabers have always worked. This is a super strange video, and I think he's approaching it from I don't even know what perspective, but it's not from a Star Wars fan's perspective for sure, because he's making a lot of mistakes here. This one I will give to him, right? We have Kylo Ren, going into Rey's mind, and he starts to see things. He sees, the island. He starts seeing things, and Rey also start seeing things in Kylo Ren's minds. Now, obviously, we know why now this video took place. This video was released a year ago and before Rise of Skywalker came out. So I can understand where he would come from here. I wouldn't call it a solid win, though. Is it because she's just awesome, or is it because he's not controlled and having trouble? I mean, we should know. Here's the thing. If you were expecting Kylo Ren to be just like Darth Vader, then yes, this would be problematic. But he's not, and that's literally the point of his character. It's said in dialogue here. You're afraid you'll never become as powerful as Darth Vader. So if you're using that Vader as your form of reference, then you're going to be off on a lot of things. Then again, he brings up now that Rey must have learned that by kind of siphoning it off of Kylo Ren's mind, and he claims that that means that there would be no purpose for a Jedi or for training. Now, we know in the novelization of The Force Awakens, she did feel like certain doors were being unlocked when Kylo Ren was doing that. We now know that that's because of the dyad. And so, again, this came out before Rise of Skywalker. Also, the concept of the dyad, before anyone says it, that concept is not new. It's been in Star Wars for a very long time. It came from Legends. But, yeah, so that's the reasoning behind that. And, yeah. We come to another she's just awesome moment. Like this is a rule being created for Rey, these things in the Force, but they're not. The Force dyad comes from Legends, and it was brought over, and it's not because she's just awesome. It's because of the Force. So again, the Force is what bends the story to people's wills, not the actual character themselves. And once again, this is also true of Luke and Anakin. That's just what the Force does. It is a MacGuffin. It is Deus Ex Machina. So, yeah. I'd also like to point out in this video, he is constantly over-exaggerating Rey's feats in order to add weight to his points. It's pretty disingenuous and not a fan of it. Dominating brains, an expert-level pilot, stuff like that is just plain not true. Ooh, we get to another she's just awesome moment. This one comes up frequently. How did Rey defeat Kylo Ren? It's pretty simple, right? I mean, we're familiar with the concept of Chekhov's gun. First of all, Kylo Ren was grievously wounded, and that's pretty obvious because we see the bowcaster one shot and utterly obliterate people all the time. He gets shot in the gut before the fight. We see him bleeding out during the entire fight. Not to mention the entire fight, he has her on the ropes. He holds her up to a cliff and then says, "You need a teacher. I can show you the ways of the Force." He could have thrown her off. What's his goal? To kill her, to defeat her? No. Was he super wounded? Yes. I don't know. It's kind of crazy that is hard to understand. In fact, every time they fight throughout the entire trilogy, he's a far superior fighter than she is. He takes on more of the Praetorian Guards. He is just dodging her attacks. He's always just trying to have a conversation with her each and every time. It's pretty funny, but kind of sad that people miss that. I do enjoy the comparison, though, to Luke's duel with Vader in Empire Strikes Back. This is actually my favorite duel in the entire series because Darth Vader is just toying with him the entire time. Now, the big difference being that Luke still loses, but that's because he's fighting Vader. Kylo Ren is not Vader. That's the point. He's not the one that should be toying with her. He doesn't have the experience. In fact, if we're considering anything, it's actually kind of strange that Luke was able to beat him in Return of the Jedi. I mean, we know that there's a time jump, but he still didn't have the same combat experience. We never saw him practice with a lightsaber at all throughout this entire thing. But Vader should be a lot more powerful. I honestly believe that Vader could have won, but didn't want to strike down his own son, which is referred to in the story. But if you just ignore like the story aspect of these fights, then yeah, they're all gonna look kind of wonky. So we're bringing up that actual parallel of Darth Vader towards Luke and Kylo Ren towards Rey, but it's not a parallel at all, really, because Rey and Kylo Ren are co-protagonists throughout this entire trilogy, not not protagonist and antagonist. It's a false it's a false comparison. We're just off base. But if you believe that it should be the same, then you're going to notice that it doesn't line up practically ever. And it, you can say that it doesn't line up because she's a Mary Sue, or you can say that it doesn't line up because it was never intended to in the first place. But, whatever. Well, what about that last moment when Rey was able to tap into the Force? How was she able to do that without having a mentor? It's an interesting question, but ultimately, I don't find it to be necessary. Think about it. She's been tapping into the Force this entire time, not understanding that it was real. Han Solo is the first person that confirms to her that it is indeed real. We also know that all Force sensitive beings use the Force all the time. In Clone Wars, and in Rebels, there were babies that were levitating objects. That's literally how they found them. So that's also how Anakin was able to fly his pod racer. I already mentioned this before, but it's coming back up because, she's always used the Force. Han Solo told her it was real. There's been several times, like Saving from the Wrath Tower, where the Force was whispering to her what to do. There's times where she just kind of knew where Kylo Ren was. She ended up getting kidnapped that time, but that was a whisper from the Force. She knew the feel of the Force when the lightsaber called out to her, and she also experienced, the vision. She got the feel of the Force when Kylo Ren was, inside of her mind, and again when she mind tricked the stormtrooper. Does it not seem reasonable that she tapped into that same energy, but intentionally for the very first time here? I believe that was fully set up throughout the whole movie. I don't understand this criticism. He also ignores the fact that Luke did train her in The Last Jedi. Her training was understanding what the Force is and her ability to access it and trust in it. I don't get it. Okay, so then how come Luke was only able to lift up a couple rocks when he was training, and Rey was able to lift up a lot more? The answer is, again, in the movie. I mean, do we watch the same movies? This is weird. What does everyone say when they're training throughout all of Star Wars, right? It's to search your feelings, it's to trust your instincts, it's to focus, it's to concentrate. He's doing a one-handed handstand lifting up several rocks and R2-D2 while having a vision about his friends. The reason he couldn't do more is because he wasn't concentrating, and he was doing plenty. How could Rey lift more rocks? Well, because she was able to concentrate. I don't know. I mean, does the amount make a difference? Does the size make a difference? What did Yoda tell us in Empire Strikes Back? Size does not matter. That it was all about the focus. When Luke couldn't pull the X-wing out of the swamp, he said it was impossible. And what did Yoda say? Always with you, what cannot be done. He didn't believe it was possible. In fact, Luke says, I don't believe it, after Yoda successfully lifts the X-wing out. Yoda looks at him and says, that is why you fail. It's not rocket science here. All of this stuff is based off of dialogue in the movies. All in all, I totally understand where the maker of this video is coming from, and all these points would be great if they didn't ignore obvious items that happened in the movie. You can't ignore something that happened in a movie and then pretend like it didn't happen and use its lack to support your argument. That's super weird. Additionally, and I didn't bring this up during it, but whenever he would try to bring up someone's potential counterpoint, he would make some weird insult towards anyone that would disagree with him. And I don't know. That's just extremely fallacious, and overall it makes me less inclined to to agree, because I now understand that it's trying to be intentionally manipulative in order to prove your point. Just as a tip, when anyone starts using ad hominem fallacies, where they start insulting you rather than trying to disprove your actual point, that's usually a sign that they're trying to argue from a point of weakness, right? It's not genuine. Here's kind of where I come down on this. Clearly, didn't like the character. right? Didn't like the character, didn't identify with the character. If you don't like or identify with the character, you pay less attention to the movie. If you pay less attention to the movie, you miss the obvious setup for things that happen in it. It's pretty simple. It's not bad. Overall, I give this video a 4 out of 10. Production value was good on it. His voice sounds great. The points were lacking. But I want to thank my commenters for bringing this video to my attention. It was mentioned quite a few times, so I wanted to make sure that I checked it out to kind of give an honest view of it. And if you have more like these, let me know. For anyone else, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll do some more of these.